Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books, and today I'm here to review not a book, an e-reader. So I have now had this lovely little fella, the Boox Palma. This is the original Boox Palma, not the slightly newer version. I have had this for 4 months now, well, more than 4 months actually, and I see the kind of 4-month point as the best time to kind of form long-term thoughts about the device. So I've used this for multiple purposes. I have used this in multiple locations, all different kind of times and all that sort of thing. So I can definitely say now I've used this in every way I'm going to use it. So now is the perfect time to let's do a proper review. So what I'm going to run through with you guys today is I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual hardware itself, so kind of like the form factor and kind of the reasons why this is a special unit. I'm going to talk to you guys about the reading experience, the apps that I have been using, and then finally we'll go into kind of like a all-around thoughts and then a comparison to the other e-readers that I have used. So let's go straight into things and talk first off about the hardware. So this is a really lovely quality e-ink screen. So I've got this turned off right now because I want to talk about the process of turning it on during the kind of software section of the review. But while we're in hardware, I can show you the kind of the standby screen. It lets you put your own pictures and stuff on there, and I decided to put my cat, Gus. So you can see here, it's really got fantastic quality when it comes. Like you can see, his every little hair on his face. You can see his individual whiskers. I think that the quality of this screen was a real surprise. And like e-ink screens have been just great forever. I can't remember the last Kindle I had where I looked at like the cover of a book, for example, and went like, that isn't as high a quality as I'm expecting. And for the main thing that you use with this device, the main thing is this lovely screen. I can tell you right now that this is a really, really nice screen to use. The big reason that this is a kind of a special device is the form factor. So my phone is recording this video, but I can tell you now that this is almost the exact same size and shape as my phone, which is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. The Pro Max is taller, but overall it's an incredibly familiar form factor. And I think that the amount of time that we as a kind of society, generation, whatever, spend doing this, just looking at your phone and scrolling, makes this an incredibly comfortable device to like binge read on. And I think that the form factor is a huge part of why I have picked up this device. I would say 9 times out of 10 over the last 4 months when I've looked for an e-reader. So I do all my reading right on the Kindle app. I do that because I have hundreds and hundreds of books purchased on there that are unread. So like I'm going to be continuously going back to that app for books I've already bought anyway. So I may as well just keep the kind of same reading experience. So if I get books from the library, I use them on the Kindle app. If I get books from like purchase them DRM free, if I get sent ARC copies of books, I will always add them to the Kindle app. So I can read my digital books on any of my e-readers. So currently I own the Boox Palma, and I also own a Boox's kind of more premium e-reader. I own the Boox Go Color 7. Now, I did until this week also have a Kindle Scribe, but I just realised that since I got this device, I had used the Kindle Scribe maybe twice, and I came to realise that while I enjoyed using the Kindle Scribe and a remote as like a proper binge reading Kindle, I actually don't have the time at the moment to do much binge reading. So I had been planning on trying to sell my Kindle Scribe and then buying Boox's large format e-reader, and I do think I may still do that. Be looking to get a Boox color e-reader, so that I can read comics on it. And that, because that was a big thing with the Kindle Scribe, was that the few comics that I had purchased and was reading on the Kindle store, I was like, oh, I'll try them on the Scribe, and very, very frequently found that the experience was just not there. But this isn't a review of the Kindle Scribe, this is a review of the Boox Palma. The thing that the Scribe and the Boox Palma have in common is that they're both black and white. So I had kind of gotten used to colour e-ink, because previous to picking up the Palma, my number one e-reader was the Boox Go Colour 7. And obviously that's a colour e-reader. And while the colours are kind of muted, it's really nice to be able to look at like book covers in colour, to look at like illustrations in colour, or you get some books where they'll have like a couple of words on a page might be in red or something, and I found that to be really enjoyable on the Go Colour 7, and I really thought that I would miss it when I transitioned to reading mostly on the Palma, and I kind of thought that the Palma would end up being my, like, I'm leaving the house, I want to read a book Kindle, and that is what, you know, I do take this everywhere. My work bag is sitting next to me on the floor because I'm going to the office tomorrow, and I will be packing the Boox Palma. But I have read this tons at home. I think I've read at least 4 or 5 full books on the Palma. And it's quite interesting as well, because my favourite Kindle in the current Kindle lineup is the Kindle Basic. At one point I had every Kindle in the lineup. I had the Paperwhite, I had the Basic, I had the Scribe. I have tried the Oasis in the past and loved it, and I haven't tried the Kindle Coloursoft, but I have tried every other Kindle device that's that was currently on the market. Now the Scribe has been replaced, but I have tried the previous generation, obviously, and the Kindle Basic was my favourite Kindle. And while the Paperwhite and the Scribe both went up and I sold them, the Kindle Basic actually has stayed in the house, and it's my wife's e-reader of choice. I don't think that the Kindle Basic is as nice a device as the Boox Palma, but I'd say the reason for that is that the Boox Palma is like 3 times the price. So if the Boox Palma and the Kindle Basic were comparable in terms of kind of build quality, I think that Boox would have a very, very hard time selling this device. So let's talk about the build quality while we're here. So multiple things make this feel like a really premium device. So it's got a little bit of weight to it. The Kindle Basic is so light that it really, you kind of almost forget you're holding it sometimes. It weighs less than like, it feels like you're carrying like a single issue of a comic book, like you're carrying like a thin kids magazine, you know, like it is not a heavy device. And while this isn't a heavy device either, it's got a little bit more weight to it. And the reason it has more weight to it is because this screen on the front is glass. Well, you know what? I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've not done any research. I can tell you, it feels like glass. It feels like glass. It is really nice and smooth under the finger. It doesn't take a ton of fingerprints in the same way that a lot of plastic screens do. And obviously this is a touchscreen device, so I'm touching it all the time, which means that the screen would normally get really fingerprinty, but I'm looking at it right now, and if I like shine the light on it in the exact right way, I can see some fingerprints from holding it like this while doing this review. But if I'm just sitting reading it, I'm not seeing those fingerprints at all. The back of the device is also a major plus point for me because it's textured. So you can see it if I hold it in the light just about there. So you can see that it is textured. So the texture on this device means that, again, it doesn't hold fingerprints. It doesn't get greasy if you are reading, and you know, like with the Kindle Basic, I would often find that the kind of natural oils from my fingers would make the back of the Kindle devices gross, especially the Paperwhite. But this textured back is the exact right kind of texture, because it's not a soft plastic, it is hard plastic, but it's just got just enough of a texture to stop any sort of issues with reading on this for long periods of time. The sides of the device are a kind of smooth, non-matte. I don't know what the version of non-matte is. They are a smooth and not matte texture, which I don't like as much as the back. And if I was Boox, I would definitely be going, let's make the entire white casing to be this textured material. But for, you know, an extremely minor quibble, I don't actually tend to hold the sides very much. So when I read, I often hold the Palma kind of like in my hand like this. So I've got like one corner propped up between my fingers, and then I'm pressing the like down arrow to change page like that. Or in fact, often I'm doing this. So I'm holding, you know, I've got like a finger underneath, and then I'm just pressing the thing like that. So that's kind of how I tend to use the device. So yeah, actually I do tend to hold the edge more than I think I do. However, it's not a huge issue. I've not read this when it was like the height of summer heat wave, so maybe my mind will change when my hands are incredibly sweaty, but like realistically that's a couple of weeks a year in the UK. So the refresh rate and stuff on the pages is exactly what you want. So interestingly, when I first got the Go Color 7, I had picked the wrong reading mode. So the device has like 4 or 5 different like presets for how it refreshes the pages, how quickly and how much ghosting you get and stuff like that. And I had accidentally set the Go Color 7 to the like every single time you change anything on the page it fully refreshes setting and gets rid of all the ghosting, and that's actually terrible for reading ebooks. It's pretty good for comics, and I think the reason that got set on is because one of the first things I tested out on the Go Color 7 was reading some comics. So I think that the Go Color 7 kind of auto calibrated for that style of viewing material, and I never kind of switched it back. Once I made my kind of initial impressions video on this over a year ago when I bought it, and following up to that, I watched a few other people's reviews, because what I like to do is kind of watch other people's reviews after I've done mine, and then that lets me that doesn't cloud my opinion too much. And a lot of the reviews on the Go Color 7 were saying like, oh, this is the best setting for ebooks, and I was like, oh, I hadn't even looked at that setting. So once I changed it, I found the responsiveness to be insanely fast, and I'll be honest with you, I just copied it straight to here. So the settings on this are basically perfect for what I'm looking for. I don't read comics on this really. I don't read anything that requires like nice colourful visuals. If I see something that in a book that I'm reading that I'm like, oh, I really want to see what colours this is, I'll often load it up on my phone, on the Kindle app, or my iPad, or if I've got the Go Color 7 to hand, I might open it up there. But really, this is a pure text reading device. So wrapping up the hardware to kind of talk a little bit about the internals, I've got a couple of things to say about the internals in that this is not a lightning fast device. It is absolutely fast enough when we're talking about page turns and reading. Zero issues there. Loading the Kindle app takes a couple of seconds more than my phone, but at the end of the day, this is this device is less than 20% of the price of the phone that I'm recording this video on. It is a much less complicated device, but it is still essentially a smartphone, just without the without the SIM card. Would I like Boox to make a version of this with a SIM card? I think that it would be much better for people out there who want a zero distractions phone. I think the problem with that is that you do still have to have self-control to not install social media apps, because you can use them on this. I have, as you know, just for fun, installed YouTube and watched a YouTube video on here. Like, this device is not it's not something that you can't use for social media. It might not be the best experience, but if you are, for example, like me, most of my social media activity is actually like text-based, like on Blue Sky or on places like Discord. I could do that on this device with no issues. The big issue, I would say, possibly is the keyboard and responsiveness. Because it's e-ink, I can breezily touch type on my iPhone. So like, I'm so used to the keyboard that I can type on my iPhone without looking at the screen. I couldn't do that here because the keyboard is not kind of the standard layout. It is slightly different. We'll talk about that a bit more in software, but there's just that very slight delay for the e-ink screen to display the action that you've taken. That doesn't happen, again, does not happen with Boox. So I can turn a page, no issues. We're kind of into software now, so I'm going to show you the thing that is kind of annoying about the software, which is how long it takes to turn on. So I'm holding the button down now. I'm not going to put like a timer on the screen or anything, because that would be some fancy editing tricks, and you've probably already seen that this video isn't really being edited in the traditional sense. Most of my videos are kind of like, you know, speed of thought rambles, but you'll see we're now on the kind of boot up screen. We're about to get into the interface now, but it isn't quick. This is something, so in fact, here you go. So this is an app that I installed yesterday, which is the Amazon app, because I wanted to browse Amazon but didn't have my phone to hand. That is very, very useful. But here's the main thing that I am using this device for. So Kindle app at the bottom, Chrome app for sometimes I want to go on Goodreads, stuff like that. When I swipe over, you'll see that I do have some more apps here. So I've got Libby, I've got a DRM-free audiobook player, I have Audible, I've got Everand, Shonen Jump, music app, podcast app, my file management app, which works with my home media server, because sometimes I want to access stuff that I have stored on there, and then a couple of other book reading apps like my local library app, the Playbooks app, for example. What I'm going to do now is while we're here, we didn't talk about this in speakers, but hardware, maybe we should have. What I'm going to do is, I don't want to play a song because then my channel will get demonetized. I'm going to play an audiobook. So let me open up the Audible app, and then I will just play you an excerpt from an audiobook. In fact, I know. Let's get probably shouldn't. Oh, there we go. This is a Robert Jordan Conan book. I will play the preview for you, and you'll be able to tell. Oh, microphone's over here. So this is the maximum volume that you can get out of the Palma. It is loud enough that, so I've listened to audiobooks on this.
Macmillan Audio presents Warrior of the Altai by Robert Jordan. Narrated for you by Michael.
So I have left the Palma, I'm locking it here, and see that lock was pretty quick. I've left the Palma on the other side of the kitchen while I've been cooking, and have been perfectly comfortable listening to an audiobook. I will say that 99% of the time I'm wanting to listen to an audiobook, it's going to be through some headphones. So I usually use the AirPods Max from Apple. I don't want, these do work with the Boox Palma because they are just Bluetooth headphones with some Apple wizardry, but I prefer personally to keep those headphones only connected to my Apple devices, because sometimes if you add another device to that list, it can divert away from a device that you're using when you don't want it to. So personally, I just keep all my Apple headphones to just Apple devices. And what that means is that I've never really linked a pair of headphones to this. I have tried a pair of wired headphones that use a USB-C connection, and those worked great. And I have tried a pair of kind of generic Bluetooth headphones that I had lying around the house, but they're just not as comfortable as my lovely big cushioned over-ear headphones, which is what I listen to 99% of my audiobooks on. So in the end, the audiobook usage for this is 99% through the speaker. The speaker, as you've heard in the preview, is not high enough quality that I would say that I would want to listen to music through it. However, a few times when I have been reading, I have put on some ambient reading music, very, very quiet, on the Palma. The only reason I ever do that is if I feel like I have been on my phone too much, and so I put my phone away for the evening when it's time to sit down and read. I will frequently do this. I will take my phone and put it in the cupboard, put it in the desk drawer, to stop the temptation to use it. Sometimes I'll set some music going on there before I put it away. A lot of the time I forget. And when I do, I'm like, no, I said I would not be using my phone. So I'll get the Palma and I'll play some music on there, and it works. It's not ideal. There are much better experiences. If you connected a nice pair of headphones to the Palma, I would imagine you would have a very similar user experience to if you connected a nice set of headphones to any other device. Moving on from headphones and listening and all that sort of jazz, the specific fun things with this are it does have a camera, which feels like a huge waste, I'll be honest with you guys. If I didn't know that camera modules cost pennies when it comes to manufacturing these devices, I would have said just don't include it. I have used it like twice to test the device. I've transferred the picture to myself and it was terrible and not worth using. I like the idea that, say for example, you are the kind of person like me who you're like, right, I'm going to put my phone away. And especially if you also have, so I have the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which means that my Apple Watch can make phone calls, can receive phone calls. So for example, if I wanted to, I could go out for a walk, go to a coffee shop or something, knowing that I could still get my emergency calls on here. So if my wife was in trouble and needed me, or if I was in trouble and I needed some help, knowing that I have that option, that means to me, like, I can leave my phone at home. And in those situations, having a camera on the back, if you're like, oh, I want to remember this specific image, for example, and I connected the Palma up to my Google Photos account, so photos that I take on here automatically get uploaded to Google Photos. Very, very useful. But I want to talk now. So we've talked a lot about the hardware actually. I think the hardware is 99% of the reason why you buy this device. The other percent is the ability to just access every ebook store. So like I said, I've got Kindle, Kobo, Everand, Google Books. I don't have Apple Books on here, but that's limited to Apple devices, so I'll pretty much never buy a book there. Libby has been a massive game changer, and the reason why I love having Libby on this device, right, is so that I do still read my Libby books through the Kindle app, because you can just send them to your Kindle app. And because I, until very recently, had the Scribe, I was going like, well, I should make sure that everything's on the Kindle app so that I can read it on the Scribe if I want to. Now I don't have the Scribe, maybe I'll find a new e-reader app. I'll be honest with you guys, like, I could find something, although I do still have hundreds of books on Kindle, so I'm not really going to be like pulling away. I missed that point where you could download all your Kindle books, and now I'm kind of stuck. But having the Libby app has been a game changer for multiple reasons. But my number one actually is being able to browse Libby while not having to be looking at my phone. So if I'm like, now is reading time, I want to read an ebook, but I don't have anything that I'm currently reading. Like right now, I finished a book an hour ago, and I'm trying to think like, oh, what do I read next? And I'm really kind of umming and ahhing and not really sure, because I have multiple options and I'm not really sure which one I want to choose. But with the Boox Palma, I can still browse Libby without having to pick up my phone. And again, you know, I can do that on the Go Color 7 as well, but the convenience of this form factor, meaning that I can really do it anywhere, is a huge, huge benefit. The Go Color 7 is not a massive device. It is not much heavier. It is not unwieldy or anything like that. Let me grab it out and I'll show you a comparison. So here's your comparison. I decided to put my white cat on the black e-reader and the black cat on the white e-reader. I thought that was funny. Maybe you will too. You can see it's about 1.5 Palmas. So I do need to read with this more, because this is like a more premium device, and I love these page turn buttons, and it still has the same textured back. If I was going away for the weekend or something, maybe I would only take just this one. But the Palma is just so convenient. Like, it seems silly because, like I say, you know, the difference in size is minimal, but the difference in like brain chemistry using a phone-shaped device and a tablet-shaped device, it's insane. But I'll tell you right now, 90% of the time I'm reaching for this instinctively. And even though this is a better device in pretty much every way, it has a bigger screen, it has a color screen, the device itself is more responsive. I have spent more time tailoring this device because I've had it for longer, and I have all the settings dialed in. I have all the apps logged in and used. I pretty much only have used the Kindle app and a couple of others with this one, because I've just been reading on it. So because it's not got the color screen, it's much more comfortable to be like, I'm going to read on this. I don't tend to do as much other stuff with it. Anyway, this is a long way to say that the Boox Palma is excellent. I'll show you some page turns here. So I'm going to open up the Kindle app, and then when we're in the Kindle, this might spoil Wheel of Time for some people, so I will find a new book. Here we go. So this is the one that I've been sent an ARC for that I've been considering reading. I say considering reading. It's on my shortlist for the things I'm going to start next. But what I'll show you guys is, so this is the title page for the ebook, and I will show you now the page turns, so how quick they are and how good they are. So where are we? So you see how quickly the page turns are. This is the font size that I've dialed in and I'm happy with. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click loads and loads and loads of times, and you can see how quickly you can turn pages. And every few pages, the device needs to do a full refresh, but it's pretty quick. And I can't read that fast, So I'm hoping that, I don't imagine many people will find a huge issue with that. One thing you see with scrolling here, so you can pull to scroll, and the scrolling, you do have to put a bit more effort in than you would on a premium smartphone. But again, this is e-ink, and I don't think I've ever used an e-ink device where scrolling has been super comfortable and nice, So that's kind of the whole shebang with the Palma. Like I said before, I love using this. This is my primary e-reader now, despite it being the smallest and definitely the cheaper of the two e-readers that I own, and the less capable technically, because it doesn't have it has the slower processor and it doesn't have color. But color, sometimes you do get a trade-off in quality. The color images have to be slightly lower quality than black and white e-ink can be, and I do just genuinely love the way this looks, the way this feels in the hand. I'm glad I got the white one, because this definitely doesn't show up any fingerprints or anything like that. And I have seen some pictures of some people who got the black one. I purely got the white one because it was on sale, it was cheaper. I bought a refurbished model. I purely got this white model because I had seen a couple of pictures where on the black model it was more obvious that there was a gap between the display glass and the actual screen underneath. It looked like there was a bigger gap, and it just wasn't as nice to look at. I'm sure I would not have cared after 1 second of using the device, because that's kind of how all devices are. The first time I got a plus-sized iPhone, I was like, oh, have I made a mistake? This is a big device. And now I pick up non-plus-sized iPhones and go oh, why is this so small? But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the Boox Palma, and I can give you an unequivocal recommendation right now. So I would also say durability of this device, I've had no issues. I have seen some reports that durability is not great, but I'll tell you guys now, I have thrown this in my bag to go to work with me basically every week since, at least once or twice a week, ever since owning the device. I've never put it in a case. I've never covered it in anything. I have just thrown it in the top pocket in my bag with my sunglasses, and have had zero issues. I've read on really hot days. I've read on really cold days. Temperature's not an issue. I've seen some people talking about the screens cracking easily, but I have kids. I've got a 1-year-old, and she will pick up and fling this thing across the room. And while she's not, she hasn't done a proper whack with it, she has, picked it up and thrown it behind her head, or like dropped it from the sofa to the floor and things like that. And it's been absolutely fine. And yeah, no marks, no dents, no scratches. The screen has got less scratches than my phone, I think. So yeah, overall, intensely pleased with this device, as you can probably tell. And I frequently, when I'm like going to see friends on the train or something like that, I will just put this in my pocket as well as my phone. I've actually just bought a sling bag because I'm like, I want to start carrying this with me even more than I currently do. So yeah, just really, really happy with this device. I don't know if I would recommend it to everyone. I think that you do need to be a bit techie, so you do need to like know how Android works, for example, or be confident that you could figure it out very quickly. It is not complicated. It is slightly more obtuse than your standard consumer phone, simply because some aspects of it are like poorly translated from Chinese and stuff. But I was able to use it with no issues. I am a huge nerd. I love my tech and my gadgets, so like, take that with a pinch of salt. I would not, for example, buy this for my technophobe mother, but I would buy this for my wife and be like, I will show you the things that you can't work out, and once you've seen it once, you'll probably be fine. But if you don't have somebody who's a massive nerd in your life and you are a bit of a technophobe, maybe just stick with a Kindle or Kobo or other e-reader that is kind of more locked down and stripped back. Price wise, also, it's difficult to discuss because this is a much more capable device than any of the Kindles, but it's also very expensive for the kind of it being black and white, for it being a small device. So you do have to think about this. Like, this could be your only e-reader, 100%. I've read tons of books on here. I never found it uncomfortable. I never was like, oh, I wish I had a bigger screen. But I do have the option sitting right next to me to pick up a big screen if I want to. If this is your only e-reader and you don't read all that much, I'd probably just say get the Kindle Basic or Kobo's version of the Kindle Basic. But if you're a big reader like me, if you're a bit of a nerd and you like your gadgets, and you are wary of how much time you spend on your phone, then this is a major recommend from me. And the one thing that I have started doing is trying to do as little screen time as possible on the weekends. So it's really easy when both your kids are playing, and my kids are playing with each other, and nobody needs me for 5 minutes to pick up my phone and look at Instagram or Blue Sky or whatever. But what I've started doing is leaving my phone in my home office. I've got my Apple Watch, so if I have an emergency call, I can get it, but I will have the Palma, and this lets me do things like, if I desperately need to look something up, I can. If I want to, if nobody needs me for 10 minutes and I can read a chapter, I can. But I'm not going to get distracted by social media, by online shopping, all these sorts of things. So if you're in the same kind of boat as me, I do think this is a real game changer for parents specifically. If you're in the same kind of boat as me, then I would genuinely highly recommend this device. So we've reached the end of the video. I would love to know what your favorite e-reader is. Maybe it's not the one that you use every day. One that I always think about is the Kindle Voyager, which was an incredible device. Mine sadly broke, but it was like 8 years old when it did. And I read almost all of the Cosmere on a Kindle Voyager before upgrading to the Oasis when it broke. But now, as I say, most of my e-reading happens on this bad boy. So yeah, let me know what you do most of your reading on. I tend to swap between physical ebook and audiobook depending on where I am and whether I can take a book with me, whether I've got time to sit down and read for a long period. So my e-reader actually gets used with most books that I read, which is kind of fun. Let me know, yeah, how you use your e-reader, when you use your e-reader. And if you've got questions about the Boox Palma, my Books Go Colour 7 review, I've answered like 70 questions and I continuously get new ones and I always go in and answer them. So if you have questions, don't worry about how long ago this may have gone up. Please just ask. One thing I haven't actually covered is the Boox Palma 2. And that is mostly because I've never seen or touched one. As far as I'm aware, the only difference is that it has an added fingerprint reader, and all of my none of the apps on here can be used to purchase stuff and can't be used to access any of my private things like my Gmail or anything like that. So I don't see a reason to add a security code to this. Maybe in future I will, but for now, no reason. I can still remotely wipe it with Google and stuff like that, so don't really need that sort of thing. Moving on, if you like this video and you would like to hear the same kind of off the top of the dome rambling discussion of science fiction and fantasy books, please subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you here. We have a small but dedicated little community, and I'm hoping to start things like a Discord or read-alongs with subscribers this year. So join the community. Let's shape it from the start together. If you haven't liked this video, please do. If you haven't dropped a comment down below to talk about your e-reader of choice, then just let me know what you're reading. I'd love to know. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.